is up, squad? It's the Guru here, and welcome back to Tap Out or Cash Out. I'm here with my co-host,
Andre Petrosky.
and we got a fresh face, guys, all the way down from North Jersey, my man, Nick Catone, UFC legend, gym owner. What else we got, Nick? Tell us about yourself, brother.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you having me on. Not just right now I'm dad, coach, running the gym, and trading paint on the weekends and some stock cars for fun. So.
Yeah, you were telling me about that the other day. It's very interesting. You have a look of, you work hard. Again, like we were just talking about this off camera, like huge gym. 32,000 square foot, I think you were saying. But you said you need that mental escape, and I know Dre thinks the same way. He loves his dirt bikes. You feel that you have to disassociate. If you want to talk a little bit about that, how you kind of use the stock cars to get out of that world.
Yeah, it's just something I found that I can still compete and not beat my body up as much as I used to. You still kind of, you get in a wreck once in a while. You still get banged up in those things, but it's just one of those things that it fills that void of still competing, getting that adrenaline going. Going from an octagon to a stock car pretty much is another cage on wheels, and with 20 other guys on the track, and usually, Saturday nights, family comes up, and it's something I found that I enjoy, and when I don't enjoy it anymore, I'll probably stop doing it. But right now, I still enjoy it. Like, sometimes, a lot of times I leave there aggravated because it's
So
there's more downs than.
The stock car is like a straightaway, like a quarter mile straightaway.
No, so it's an oval track.
Got it.
It's like short track racing. So it's
and you build the car
1/3 mile. So I bought it. I have some guys that work on it for me. One of my best friends kind of got me into it, and I race a street stock. I had a modifier, was open wheel. I raced it 3 or 4 times. It's a lot more involved. You need like a whole crew, and it's just a lot more finicky car. It just needs a lot more hands on when you're at the track. The stock car I can pretty much, like this week I just went there by myself, pulled out of the trailer.
Yeah.
How
fast
change the
does it
tires.
go when you rip it?
We get about I'd say probably about 80, 85, and then you hit the turn. So it's on your
Going
back on the
that fast
gas.
on that,
But you got there's 20 other cars on the track with you. So it's
Dre, look at him like he loves that shit.
Where do you do that at?
At Wall Stadium down it's about 20 minutes from Brick. So
Philly boys
bet
love their
on it?
motorsports for sure.
what's that?
Do they bet on them on the races?
No, I don't think there's any betting in there, but yeah.
They
Jordan
prep
won't
the
be
track.
there then.
Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
But we will be this weekend, guys. There's no UFC. We will be in AC for CFFC. A lot of the boys fighting this week. I'm very excited. We got Bobby fighting. We were talking, and then Ryan Cafaro in the main, guys. Like, that's gonna be awesome. A little shout out to him. Really cool to see. I think a couple guys, if they get wins, they might get the call from the big show too, which is really cool to hear.
I think Jay Watson's on the card.
Jay's fighting this weekend too.
Double check.
Really? Oh, I didn't even realize
I'm pretty
that.
sure he's
That'd be
this
awesome.
weekend. Ben Coyle's this weekend. We got Jeremiah Delgado's this weekend.
Wow, yeah, this is gonna be a good time. And then they have the grappling the day before as well, so it's gonna be an exciting weekend for no UFC. They always do a good job of planning that well. Obviously, I'm sure they look ahead and realize there's no UFC schedule.
Jay's June 14th.
I was gonna say, oh yeah, that's the day you fight. Yeah, that would have been a nice surprise. Apparently, Jay's got some nice hands, huh?
Yeah, he got the knockout of the night.
Yeah,
for his
he got
last
the
fight.
yeah. That was Art of War, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Art of War.
For those who don't know, Jay is one of our other blue light sponsored athletes.
Yeah. Speaking of that, right while we're on it, guys, we do our blue light knockout of the week. I think this one, hands down, Jersey boy, who's getting it? Jared Gordon.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Jared
beautiful inside slip right hand coming over the top.
And it hurt because Tiago's a longtime Guru Squad member. He's like one of the originals, still in the picks chat. And you never know what you're going to get with Tiago. Like, he's so skilled, but sometimes his chins is not the best. It's like I've really had high expectations, and every time he lets me down, and he touched him right on the chin, like you said. Blue light. The Gloucester City location, guys, is unbelievable. Check them out. It's really cool. And now they're opening a third in Gibbsboro down the road, guys. So Blue Light taking over. We call it the knockout of the week, guys, because you need a little help going to sleep. Blue Light will put you right out, guys. All right? How about it? So why don't we dig into this card a little bit? You guys want to talk about the fights last week a little bit first?
I thought they were great fights. What was it? Going into the fight before the co-main was like all finishes.
Yeah, well, how crazy is it that what's his name that got canceled because he had herpes?
Oh,
He had the
Nursultan was the only fight that wasn't a decision.
Yeah, Nursultan was. No, there's a couple. Gabe Green. Gabe Green was a huge one, by the way.
That was a finish too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, that was crazy because we had Gabe Green, and by the way, I hit $54,000 worth of parlays this weekend, and Gabe Green was a big part of it for the squad guys. But he was down, so he did the weight cut. This was his first time moving down for Gabe Green, and first round was a little scary. He got pieced up, but the other dude gassed. He was newer, and then he got that choke in, and he didn't even really fully lock it in. It was like as soon as he got his hands tapped, the dude knew it was done. And he tapped, and dude, it was like one of those quicks. Oh, he tapped. Like, it was yeah, like, dude, we were so excited. I went nuts on my story, as you guys know. So that was a very exciting finish. And the Gilbert Burns Morales fight. Did you catch that, Nick?
No, you know what? I was up at I was at the track,
Yeah.
so I was checking in on the phone here and there.
Yeah.
but
I
some of the
saw
highlights.
Teddy Atlas did a video talking about Morales, saying Morales has all the attributes to be like a world champion. Gave him a lot of credit. Yeah,
Bro, I couldn't believe the size difference between him and Gilbert. When they first got out, it was unbelievable that he makes that weight. And like Gilbert Burns is, again, we talked about this, you didn't agree, but I thought Gilbert arguably beat Hamzat.
Yeah, no, I mean Gilbert certainly has shown like a lot of promise to where I'd be like, I don't know if Morales deserved to be a huge favorite, that big of a favorite.
Mhm.
But sometimes what you do earlier in your career does not always reflect later.
Yeah. And I felt kind of bad again. Gilbert, long time. How'd you feel seeing the highlights, dude? I kind of got that feeling of like, I wasn't sure if he was going to lay his gloves in the octagon at the end of that fight or not. I thought that might have been coming.
Yeah.
It didn't. I think he's getting fat paychecks now. So I think,
it's interesting. Like on the flip side, you got Jared Gordon, who is later in his career, but still pulling off wins, still getting big wins. And,
if he didn't get that Patty robbery, which that cost me $60,000, imagine the difference in the trajectory.
But that loss is
Jared. He was over the years. He's been in the gym. He's come down when Frankie was competing. He came in a lot. My older gym before the new one. But Jared's he's one of those guys. Man, he's a gamer. You know what I mean? He's gets in there. He's hard worker and just kind of puts the foot forward and goes. Man, he's on the gas.
Did he train with you too, or no?
No, never came down to Philly.
No, it's weird because I initially when I first got into UFC, for some reason, like I always like thought Jared was part of the Philly boys. And he's not. He's not. He doesn't train with you guys.
But he trained with Jonovan a bunch.
Is that what it was
in Albuquerque? Or no, not in Albuquerque, but at Donald's Ranch.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's Albuquerque. Right?
Yeah, I forget where. I mean,
Cerrone's Ranch.
Yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah,
oh, really?
I think it was one or two of Frankie's camps. He came in, and trained. But Jared's always good, dude. He's glad to see him still getting.
So who you been working with recently?
So Corey's back, Anderson.
Yeah.
He's been kind of getting screwed around with the whole PFL Bellator thing. So he's been 16 months now waiting on a fight. And
Yeah.
So he actually came out for 2 camps, moved his family out, everything, and then finally the fight's
Moved
off.
his family out from where?
Because he's back in Indiana now. He bought a house there. He's been there for the last 2 years. Now he's just been coming out for camps, where he was more in New Jersey. So he's been going all the way out there, and then he'll come back for a camp, and then gets all the way out here with his family and moves everybody out, and then all of a sudden there's no fight, and then he went back again, and then came back out again. So
who did they have him?
Well, he's supposed to fight Nemkov again at heavyweight, and then it was all agreed on, and then all of a sudden, then he backed out of it. And then
I love that inside slip right hand coming over the jab.
Yeah.
He hit it on, and I forget if it was the first fight or the second fight, but he threw that like a bunch of times. Had a lot of success with that.
Yeah,
is that you or is that Mark Henry?
More Mark. I've been working a lot of his more of his top game, his ground and pound, his wall stuff, his takedowns.
Which he's looked dominant.
Yeah, and you know what? And that was like a thing that I felt like in the UFC he was always trying to prove like something standing and banging with these guys. And he's always had that heavy top pressure game.
Yeah.
And we kind of got back to that a little bit more in the Bellator, and he's still having a dominant victories with the ground and pound. You know what I mean? It's just at that weight, man. It just
and there's
takes
levels.
one shot. You know what I mean? And he's taken some over the years, and you know what I mean. And it's like if you can limit that, why are we gonna stand in there? And you feel like sometimes when you get in there for the UFC, they want that standing and banging. And
it's funny.
It's like the Michael Chandler we were talking about last week. It's like he's like the perfect example of someone who just stands there and bangs and has these exciting fights. But like at the end of the day, he's 2-6.
Yeah.
In the UFC,
Well,
he's like 2-6.
Yeah.
It's funny because, you know, if you guys have followed our social media escapades, right, with Andre, but I say this to him, you're at a very interesting point in your career, right? Coming off the 3 decision victories in a row, and now you just got your contract. Now, in your head, where are you mentally? Do you want to go in there and try and bang and have like a big like highlight finish, or are you fighting for the fight IQ to book the dub? Like where?
I think that at the end of the day, like whether I fight a grappler or a striker, whether I take him down, I got to get finishes.
Yeah,
it's not about standing and trading and being stupid. It's about taking him down when I need to, but also getting the finishes on the ground.
Yeah. Now, do you feel like you're in a place like mentally where you knew, obviously, you know, those previous fights, you needed to get those wins to solidify your spot?
Yeah.
Now, I think I texted you this the other day. You're in a place where everybody in the UFC, Sean Shelby, Dana White, they know that you belong, right? There's not going to be people less than you that you're not going to be able to work, right? You've asserted that you're at a certain level in the UFC. So now, in your head, are you able to take more risk than you normally would have going into the other fights? You think you're totally the same level, or do you think you're going to go in maybe looking for, or hunting that finish more so? I know you said like in your early fights where you did get the finishes, you had a different mentality and you kind of went for the submissions harder and you affected your gas tank a little bit later on in the rounds. Like, where are you at now if you feel comfortable speaking about it?
Yeah, I think that I don't think it's a matter of really risk as much as it is like just different techniques, like different strategies when I'm on the ground or different strategies when I'm on the feet.
Okay. Yeah. So that you're just kind of training more
risk reward. Like, but there's adjustments that I could have made in those fights where I only got the decision and that I could have gotten closer to the finish without taking huge risks.
Right, like more ground and pound with Budka, stuff along those lines.
Yeah, I could, like, especially with the Budka fight, is like I could have taken Mount way sooner.
Yeah.
But I was content staying in half guard. And yeah, maybe it was risk, but you know, I think if you take Mount the correct way, you know what I mean, it's,
I mean, guys' hips are strong now, where
Mount worth it.
Yeah, well, Mount's not as dominant a position as you see. Guys are somehow hip escaping a lot easier when guys get in a full mount. I feel like almost half guard stronger.
No doubt. If you can take Mount, it historically is a position where if you get swept, you end up on your back.
Right.
Like that's just the reality of it. But if you do it the right way, it's a position you should be able to finish from. The same with the back is like I avoided the back for so long because I thought it was such like I was like I'm just working harder than my opponent here. Like I'm squeezing, I'm holding, and I'm not doing any damage, and I'm more tired than he is.
Yeah,
like because you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was doing it wrong. So I think you make those adjustments rather than completely avoiding the position.
Yeah. And how do you feel about Nick? You have what, 15 UFC fights? 12 UFC fights?
I had 14 fights at 8 with the UFC.
Okay.
So, I mean, me coaching the guys, especially guys like Corey, those top pressure guys. I prefer a lot of them guys in the half guard, especially earlier in the rounds, because the guys are gonna try to buck you off. They got a lot of energy. As the fight wears, you start looking for that mount. You'd be a little bit, the guys get tired. But that top half guard in MMA, that's that dominant, being able to control that bottom leg and kind of hug the hip and strike and constantly, posture. And, I usually always have the guys with the forearm under the chin, stretching them out, come down to the strike. As soon as they start regaining position, you got to go back to control, then start, pounding again. It's just something you build up, and you feel that, the wind coming out of that guy's sails a little bit, and then it start raining on him a little bit more.
Yeah, once you break a guy, I mean, you could take Mount, you could take the back. You know what I mean? Those are positions.
So that's the answer to work on.
Yeah, but sometimes jumping to side control, next thing you know, the guy's scrambling up to all fours, and now you're in a front head position, and the guy's back to his feet.
Well, that's how Castaneda lost against Gutierrez. Is he stayed inside, and Gutierrez was longer. So now guys, again, they're so great off their back. You give him a little bit of the, and boom, next thing you know, he almost took his back and he ended up back on his feet. And that cost him the round there. So, like, again, it's tough there in a scoring situation.
And especially a lot of the wrestlers, too, they always like to reach for the head. And a lot of times you reach for the head, again, you're letting that guy fight to all fours, and now you're fighting hands and you're not front head, and he's fighting up.
Yeah.
I like the guys stretching underneath the chin, flatten them back out. You know what I mean? Because you just have a habit. The wrestler's always grabbing the head. But a lot of times you're you're actually giving that guy a way up sometimes.
So you think it's better for a puncher just to go like a quick forearm or quick?
He's talking about on the ground.
I'm talking about on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. Like when you're on top, do you
side
still
control position?
Yeah, side control. I always emphasize the little strikes to start getting that hand control. You know what I mean? And now you're tying up wrists, and now you can really.
So no framing out and actually going for the big big
mean,
punch or just kind of short shots.
It depends. I mean, if you're rocking the guy from your feet and he's hurt, that's one thing. But if you got the takedown and you guys are just kind of grappling a little bit, you want to be
and you're not worried about him getting caught in the guard.
A little bit more controlled. You know what I mean? You go for that 1 or 2 big punches. Next thing you know, you lose that position. You did all that work to get him to the ground, and now he's back up to his feet. So that's always the game, and each guy is always different with their styles. You know what I mean? It depends on the fighter, and some guys, sometimes they get up the first time. It's that second takedown where you feel that wind, like it's like you guys keep the composure. A lot of guys are good getting back up, especially early in the round. But you get them down that second time, and that's when they're like.
I feel like that's how it's gonna. In my head, Andre versus Shabazian, I feel like by the third takedown, he's not gonna have any stamina left to get up if he lasts that long. I think maybe he'll get up once or twice because now guys are great at that, great at finding the cage, using their back up against it. But like you said, his gas tank historically, I know it's a little different when he's about, but it's that's what we're seeing in our head, right? Nick and I, we text during the fights. Most Saturdays when you're not doing stock car, we're texting throughout the fights. And this is stuff we talk about. But like, dude, I can't believe it's 3 weeks. Or what? 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks from Saturday.
Yeah. So now, where are you emotionally right now with it?
I'm excited. Like, I'm used to having like a 5 or 6 week camp, a 2 week camp.
It's a long camp.
So like when I get a full camp, I'm like, fuck, man, this shit. Can we just fight? Yeah.
And Pfeiffer's next week or 2 weeks.
I don't get me wrong. I love training martial arts. It's like the fucking greatest sport, the greatest job in the world. But the camps are long.
Yeah,
they're long of doing the same shit every day. But there's a reason we do it. I know that. I know there's a reason we come in and do the same shit every day. But I just want to fight. Let's get this show on the road. You know what I mean?
I miss the competing part. I don't miss it. I don't miss the training. But that's where I kind of get that little bit of a thrill still with the adrenaline in the car. It kind of gives me a little bit of that. You feel that again. You know what I mean?
I always commend people that like the guys that come and train like religiously, even if it's once a day, but they'll come every day and train and they don't compete.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, I've been competing. I've never trained and not competed like ever since I was like 4 years old. It's always been a competition this week, a competition. I've never just trained just for like the love of it.
Just the
but I'm sure, like, I know competition's gonna end one day. Like one day I'm gonna be done competing.
Yeah,
guys. Once again, I'm surrounded by animals. Like if you just see his eyes when he's talking about this, like you can just see, dude, he's just like, he's an animal. Like it's crazy that at different levels that there are to life. But,
we bring Jordan on for his outfits mostly.
Yeah, so, you like my? Look at this, dude. I got this.
Let's just discuss what we got.
We want to talk about this. Look at those legs though. Look at those
today.
legs there in the camera though. Look at that. We got. By the way, look at the hoodie though. Brought to us by, what sleeve are we on? Sorry, Dev. Power, right? You guys need some electric in your house. Straight tell them about them.
Jordan, what is going on with this free solar giveaway?
This solar thing is your thing. You were supposed to have an answer for us 2 weeks ago, Dre. You said it's free. How they get it?
All right, here's my promise that next week I'm gonna have the answers to the exact date of the free. We're doing a free solar giveaway. So someone is gonna get free solar energy for life. Free energy for life. Can you imagine that? Free energy for life. So Power, our guys, the Enright brothers, they're going to give away a free solar panel system. We're just waiting on the date and the specifics, but it's coming soon.
It's coming soon. Definitely coming soon, guys. Power, check them out. Again, they got a great facility. You're driving to South Jersey. You can't miss it. Great people, the Enrights. We love the Enrights.
So just to circle back, because Jordan likes to jump around here, but the fight that I'm thinking about when we're talking about all the grappling strategies is the Blanchfield and Macy Barber fight. Both very good grapplers. I think that they both like lost a couple fights. Like they came out with like a bunch of momentum. Blanchfield lost to that Fiorot.
Yeah, in a dominant way. Like Aaron's striking was very much exposed,
and it was exposed a little bit against Rose too in the first round or two.
Yeah,
I think that the longer this fight goes with Macy Barber, I think that it is to Aaron's advantage.
Right.
Like she's shown that she's a better fighter later. I think she starts really slow,
Mhm.
but Macy comes out hot.
Right.
Like that's a
right.
I think Aaron needs to get a takedown early and kind of cool off Macy early.
100%.
Yeah.
Like so, I actually there was openings. Caitlin, does Caitlin Kagan cheer with you?
Yeah, she did for years. Obviously, I think
she's pregnant now. Yeah,
she's
but
taking
congrats to her.
But I think
Kyle.
dude. I think she had openings to win against Macy Barber. There was a couple 50-50 positions against the cage where if she would have just thrown a couple more strikes, I think it would have turned around. But replaying that fight and seeing, I think that Aaron still like she has a -200 favorite, which was a little surprising to me because I do think that
against Macy,
yeah, because I do think Macy's gonna have the striking advantage for sure and quickness, but when it comes to hips, Aaron obviously that's what she does. Aaron's a grappler. But I'm just curious to see if the striking is gonna be able to evolve enough because Caitlin's got decent striking for that level, and they're bigger girls where that's just the one weakness that Aaron has, and if with the hips that Macy has, I feel like she might be able to counteract. I even though Aaron's very elite grappling, it's gonna be interesting to see how that striking goes. I think that's gonna decide.
Curious. So, do you know who owns that Silver Fox?
That is Carl.
They're close by you.
No, he's got to be about an hour and 20
north?
away, maybe. Yeah, more north. Yeah, I'm like right by Point Pleasant, Seaside.
Yeah,
or that central.
And Carl, so I mean, she's good. Her grappling's good, and I've heard good things about him as a jiu-jitsu instructor.
Is that where Aaron or Macy trained?
Aaron's in North Jersey.
Isn't Macy from Jersey too? Isn't Macy Barber from New Jersey too? I could have sworn she was for some reason. Sure. I don't know why I thought that. I'll look that up.
Yeah, he's always had real good grapplers. He's on more the local circuits. He hasn't had too many guys get to the bigger shows, but he's always had good. He was always up at Henzo's up in Monday mornings. Was always a big day to train in the city when I was still in training.
Speaking of training, how often do you train now?
You know what? I'm between. I mean, I hung it up because of my back. I was getting probably 1 to 2 epidurals every camp towards the end.
Lower
back. And just the last couple of years now, I need a full knee replacement. So I've been kind of,
Did the back issue resolve itself?
No, it still bothers me. Just trying to, I maintain it. I'm more preventative stuff lately. But every once in a while it flares up. But up till probably maybe 2 years ago, I was still going with like Corey when it came in. Pretty hard. Not like full blown sparring, but we would do, a little bit more of a touch spar, just kind of get that good push, a little bit of wrestling. I'm gonna be 44 in a couple months, so
but you can still hold your own a little bit.
I got 9 years on him, so I mean we'd be going and some of the guys in the gym would be like, "Hey, coach, you still got it." I'm like, "Yeah, but now I need a week to recover, man." I'm like, I can't do it every day anymore, and that's where it was at the end of my career. I was taking more days off than I was training, and
what did you fight at?
And I remember the day, my wife woke up the one morning, and I'm like, barely getting out of bed. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "I got a fight in 5 weeks." She's like, "No, what are you doing?" And then it like kind of hit me, and I'm like, "You know what? If I can't train the rest of the way without getting another shot, then I'll hang it up." And I ended up, pulling out, and that was it. I hung it up, And,
who was that again?
I was supposed to fight. Was that my last one was against Tom Watson. And then a guy Miranda I was scheduled with on
Gabriel Miranda.
When Corey fought that was the was it Newark or MSG? He fought Weidman's buddy.
Not
205 or
John Vallant.
Oh yeah.
So I was supposed to fight on that card. I think Rockhold fought maybe Machida that card.
What weight class did you fight at?
85.
You're an 85er?
And then I went down to 70 for one fight, and then went back up.
I don't know if you can tell, but dude, Nick's a fucking tank, bro.
He's brutal. And that fight, I mean, dominated him in the first round, and it was out in Vegas, and that kid, this kid Wahlberger, he had like 20 wins and 16 by submission. No, Mark Wahlberg, and he hit me with like a jab, and I've been hit with like crazy heavy punches all the time, and I didn't know where I was. Next thing you know, he was on my neck.
Yeah,
really?
Next thing I know, I'm waking up. It was like one of those things where I just think that drastic cut of the weight cut just kind of and the week of the fight, I really was only it was sauna and like hot tub, and I could not even like hit pads. I was so drained.
Yeah.
And it was kind of counterproductive. You know what I mean?
No, my whole career, people have always said, like, you can make 70. You can make 70. Because I'm short for the division. I'm 6 foot.
That's how I was. Yeah.
My dad was always big against cutting.
Yeah.
He's like, you want to hate this sport? Go cut another weight class.
Yeah.
You want to hate your life? Go cut another weight class.
Yeah.
You want to be fresh and focus every day, go in the gym and focus on getting better?
Yeah.
And bro, 15 pounds in the weight classes you would have to cut. That's a big difference.
Dude, I cut 35 pounds. Like, I'm not cutting no more.
Yeah.
But people are doing it.
I know.
Like, guys are crazy. They do it. But I don't, like, I want to win fights.
Yeah.
Work for Gabe Green.
I'm not here to see how low I can fight.
Yeah.
Like, I could fight at one set. Like, that don't do nothing.
That's why I
me.
felt I was always in between. If it was like a 75 weight class, maybe, I probably would have been better. That last 5 pounds was because I made it when I fought 85. I mean, I would just work it off. I was just always like on a treadmill. I didn't do all the water That wasn't really that big years ago either. You know what I mean? More to guys started getting into the salt baths and all that stuff. But I always felt like I was like you say, like some of these guys I'm fighting 6'3", 6'4", and it just I was always strong. I just felt like maybe I can go down. And then I had the same thing. I had coaches that were like, don't do it. And then some they're like, maybe you can make it.
And for the short argument, it's like even if I go down to 170, like I'm still not gonna be the tallest guy in the division. I'm still gonna have to fight guys taller than me. So why don't I just learn how to fight guys that are taller than me?
Yeah.
The one thing is the difference between 85 and 70 striking power is substantial, and you've been able to see that lately when the guys get in there. Like it's crazy the difference. I mean, obviously you fight it, so it's no different to you. But like from a fan's perspective, you can see when a guy makes that jump. I mean, Holland alone, you see the difference in that, which is crazy that he teeters like that. Because again, that's the only weight class that's straight 15 pounds like that, right? Yeah. Well, I guess there's 170 to 155 that same jump, but then it's 45. Then it goes 10 pounds every other weight class, right? So, but yeah, the power is definitely and dude, and it was the Abus fight was what really showed it. There's those guys like at 185, like when you get to the top of the tier of the division, there's a big difference, big difference, and you're right there. So, we're gonna find out in Atlanta how that chin is, huh?
So, what is your favorite fight of your career?
My favorite fight, probably my debut. You know what I mean? I was supposed to fight Amir Sadala. He just won the Ultimate Fighter show. I got off the plane in Vegas. Find out he has staph infection. The fight's off. Had like 48 people fly out there. Main card, first fight in the UFC. Nice, we had sponsors at that time.
Oh wow.
And scratched, and then we got rescheduled. 2 weeks before the next fight, he broke his clavicle, and then they got me a last replacement. Some guy Derek Downey used to train with out in I forget, it was Indiana or somewhere out there with Josh Berkman, his main training partner. And just got in there and did my thing and dominated. I submitted him in the second round. And, and that kind of started the career off. So that just getting to that point. My first fight, my whole way how I started fighting was I was coaching at a wrestling club, and the guys were always training in the gi afterwards, and they were, it was a short thing wrestling. I was help coach there, and they always knew I was a good wrestler, so they always tried to get me to stick around. I'm not wearing that thing, you know what I mean? So finally, they got me to, stick around one day, and I kind of was like, this is actually pretty cool. And then, and I always trained with the gi.
Jiu-jitsu's way cooler than wrestling.
And I always trained in the gi with my wrestling shoes. for like a year. I wouldn't take my wrestling
Really?
shoes off.
They're like, Nick, you know you can take them off now. Nah, I need them.
Now
My toes.
can't stand the shoes when you
Yeah.
train. You know what I mean? But so then they're like, yeah, you should fight, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. And then it was more of like a dare, like so I had this. It was like the Tap Out had that TV show at the time. It was at the baseball stadium down in Atlantic City. It was outside. It was like 2007.
This was your first fight ever?
Yeah, 2006,
Wow.
2007. And I had I forget how I fought at a catch weight, went in there, dominated a guy like in a minute and a half, just took him down, mounted him, and pounded him, and they stopped.
Did you have any fear going into it? Like, were you like?
I just didn't know what to expect. You know,
Yeah.
I was really, my first 4 pro fights, I never even sparred. It was that point. I just trained jujitsu and wrestled, and I just would jab just to clinch you and get you to the ground, and then things snowballed. But so that was my first fight, and then 2 weeks later, there was a CFFC card with it was Ray Mercer, Kimbo Slice.
Wow.
Was at Convention Hall. And
that fight
they
just came up on
Facebook.
On the Facebook.
So that was So I was on that card. What I wasn't supposed to be. Dan Miller was supposed to fight.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So John Howard was supposed to fight Dan Miller. Dan Miller got hurt, and I just fought 2 weeks. I knew my medicals and everything was going. I jumped into the fight with John Howard. I think he was 5-0 at the time.
And where
he
was
like
the
a
fight?
brown belt. It was at the Convention Center in Atlantic City.
Oh, okay.
Boardwalk Hall,
Yep.
I mean. And won that one, and then Ring of Combat. I ended up doing a 4-fight thing with them, and then won the next 4 fights in the first round. So I had my first fight, and 16 months later, I was signed with the UFC.
Wow.
So I was number 1 on the list in the police department in town. I put it all off. I'm
Really?
like, it's serious. Goes and
That's crazy.
and I ended up just kind of just rolling with it, and that's how the whole thing started.
Who taught you how to wrestle?
Taught me how to wrestle? I mean, I've been wrestling since I was probably 7, 8 years old. Brick Memorial has one of the best. I'd say one of the best programs in.
Is that Scotty Winston?
So no, he was at Jackson.
Jackson.
But Brick Memorial, I mean, we were state champs my junior and senior year. Big wrestling, town. And then went to Rutgers for a year. Transferred out, finished up at Rider University. Wrestled there, Division I for 4 years.
Who was your coach at Rider?
So John Hangy, he's the head coach there now.
Really?
So it was Hangy and Gary Taylor. Coach Taylor passed about 2 years ago. But John took it over. It was his first year as like an assistant. The first year I transferred in from Rutgers in year 2000. So there till 2004, and then like I said, I was helping out at the wrestling club, and they used to do jiu-jitsu afterwards, and that's kind of how that all started snowballing.
I'm assuming during these 4 fights with Ring of Combat, you had to learn how to strike.
Yeah, so
who taught you how to strike?
There was one guy that trained jiu-jitsu, and where I trained jiu-jitsu was mostly gi. There really wasn't anybody doing no gi at the time. It was mostly gi. Guys would take their gi top off and kind of do it, but it was mainly gi training. And one of the guys there had a little bit of a boxing background, and would just we would take our gis off the end, and he would hold the pads, and this guy Chuck, and he was probably the first guy that ever held for me. And like I said, I just was doing it more of like a dare, and then I started taking it serious. And, then I had to start kind of looking for some training and coaches and training partners.
When did you realize you could actually like make a living from it?
Probably once I started getting to about 4 or 5-0, and I had got Brian Hamper. He's with Sucker Punch. Reached out to me, and he goes, "If I get you in UFC, can I manage you?" I said, "Yeah." And sure enough, I won my last fight. I got the title in my 5th fight, defended it my 6th, and then I had my first 6 fights. 5 of them I finished in the first round. I think it just kind of like opened some eyes and just rolled with it. You know what I mean? And then just my biggest thing was just injuries over the years. I never really got, I feel like, momentum. I had a lot of back problems, which started in college a little bit. I tore my Achilles. That was I was out for
Yeah.
about 9 months with that. I came back.
That's what Jeremiah did.
Yeah, it was brutal. I was supposed to fight Aaron Simpson on the Maynard and Edgar card in Houston, and 2 weeks before I was just sprinting. My last sprint, playing on the turf, to sprint back, and it felt like a medicine ball fell off the wall or something. I just went down, and
Wow.
the trainer came over and goes, "Oh, you're killing me." And I got back. I fought 9 months later
Did you get
against.
surgery on that?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I had it rolled all the way up into my calf.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, so I have 9 sutures holding that thing back
Yikes.
together.
Wow.
And I fought 9 months later, which was a pretty quick turnaround for Achilles, against Chris Camozzi down at
Oh,
the.
yeah,
It was the
yeah.
old. It was the old Revel.
He's still fighting. Bare knuckle.
He's doing bare knuckle. Yep. And packed the house down in AC, and was up 2.5 rounds, dominating the fight, and he hit me with one knee, split me open, and they stopped it because
They stopped
it.
literally you
Right.
could see my skull that was
Wow.
flapping
Really?
open.
You got,
Yeah.
you have a scar?
Yeah, here and
Yeah,
all the way
wow,
down. Had
wow.
like 40 stitches there.
Wow.
That's fine.
And I kept saying, "Listen, let me get one more takedown, and I could just
Yeah.
hang out on top." And they're
Yeah.
like, "Nick, we gotta stop." It,
Yeah.
We can see your dome,
And
bro.
I know there was doctors and stuff too coming up my career, and they were like, "Can't let it," But
That's
that was a tough one to come all the way back from the Achilles. You work hard, and then to have that kind of.
Was that your first
taken.
L?
No, so I
Oh.
lost. My first one was against Tim Crater.
Okay.
He was on the Ultimate Fighter show. And that was the fight where I was still at this little small jiu-jitsu school, and then decided that I had to take it a little bit more serious. Just got caught in a kind of more of a like a Darce, but I just stayed on my knees. I didn't know the defense. Just kind of like, again, dominating the fight on my feet. He can't take me down if he wanted to, and corner was kind of telling me, get another takedown, and I got like 2 heel hooks in the first round.
Really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just was a thing where I needed to get some better coaching. I think that kind of hurt me, that fight. Where if I just stay on my feet, I'm winning that fight. There's no way he's getting. The only way he was going to finish me was with maybe a choke. And he was, a high level black belt at the time. I think he was, Forrest Griffin's coach at the time, his jiu-jitsu coach.
Shout out to Forrest Griffin.
Yeah,
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
He runs the PI now.
Really?
Yeah.
And I know Dustin trained under Tim for a while too. And then my second loss was Mark Munoz. I had a split decision.
Yeah.
That was a close fight. He was
Wrestler.
a wrestler, 2-time national champ,
Yeah.
Oklahoma State.
He coaches a high school team or something now.
Yeah. That was that was a good fight. I went out to Portland for that fight.
He's a big guy now.
Yeah.
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 But I had like 3 or 4 takedowns that
Yeah.
fight. He didn't take me down at all.
No.
I went for a couple chokes. Towards the end, I went for the choke and slipped off his back and
There's the
ended
IQ
the last
thing.
round on my back for the last 20 seconds. And I
It's the back.
lose the fight.
It's
You
the
know what I
back
mean?
for
But that was one that was, I felt like turning point of the career too, because he ended up, I think, fighting Weidman shortly after. Weidman hit him with the elbow and then fought Anderson Silva.
wow.
So I felt like kind of
Yeah.
that could have, a little bit my.
You
my
ever train with Weidman?
Weidman, only once or twice years ago, like when we first started, kind of, Chris was
What do you
tough.
think about him and his match this weekend?
I don't know. I mean, Chris, Chris is. I feel like if he kind of sticks a little bit more of his grappling, his bread and butter, he can kind of, dictate a little bit.
Really?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I feel like he gets out there like he's got to prove and stand.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him get his hand raised. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But these guys. I don't know if it's just chasing that last win or whatever it is. Some of these guys are getting thrown some big mucks and big bucks.
So I
and,
tried to get him for we fought on the same card in Boston, and I was like, "Yo, is there any way you would do the Fury grappling against me?" And he was like, "I have 2 fights left on my contract here, and they're offering me $5 million to box Anderson Silva."
Yeah.
He's like, "No offense, I'm not grappling you for $10 million."
So now
And
he's
I was
against
like,
Pat.
I totally understand. So then he leaves the UFC and he signs with GFL.
Uh-huh.
So I'm like, oh man, they must have paid him a bunch of money if he had someone offering him $5 million to box Anderson Silva, and he ended up doing his GFL. Now, obviously, GFL collapsed. So, or postponed, whatever you want to call it.
Which is a
GFL
shame.
didn't work.
I was looking forward to the Danis fight.
So
honestly.
now he's doing the Fury grappling against Pat Downey for, I guarantee, not a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
And there's
I'm
no
just
way he's not going
curious
to get
how
thrown
it
out
all
of the
went
cage.
downhill.
Yeah, so I thought that fight's that's scratch.
Downey?
No, the Weidman.
Yeah, Weidman's against Downey at the
no, it got scratched, but now he took the grappling match.
Oh,
with
okay.
Downey.
So I'm thinking he still
So
had
he's
to
grappling
fight.
in
Yeah, so he's
Atlantic
doing
City.
just grappling.
Just
yeah,
grappling.
Yeah.
so
Who was he supposed to fight in the GFL?
who was it? It was I just saw it. Like there
I
was like a lot of like
veteran
pioneer guys on the card.
It wasn't Silva, was it? He wasn't supposed to fight Silva there, was it?
No.
Nah.
Was it Rockhold again?
Maybe. Could have been.
Maybe.
I don't know who it was. Well, maybe one day we'll find out.
I can look it up.
Yeah.
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 But that all folded, right?
Yeah, it's funny. Weidman actually did. Weidman was one of my most expensive promos when I was running a bunch of UFC guy promos, and he had the big following. I think he charged me like a bit, like at least $5,000. Like I gave him like at least $5,000 to do an Instagram post, and it got out of everything. Like I was doing with Bryce, like everybody, and it got the least engagement out of all the money, and I paid the most for him. And like I was like, that motherfucker, he got it. So that's like my Weidman story. But his comeback, bro, I cried. I was at like when he was walking out against was it the Tavares fight?
Yeah.
And like the one that went like the crazy emotional one, like dude, the energy in that arena was just so. I think that you were there, right? Were you there? That was the night we met, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We that was a fun night.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
I think that was that night, right?
No, what? It was when Islam and Khabib came.
Right. Oh, that wasn't the same card.
Yes. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. That was Islam and Poirier at Newark. Yeah.
Talk about that. So Islam and Khabib stayed with you for over a month, right? At your gym?
Yeah, they were. They stayed in the house close by, and trained for the 3 weeks leading up to his fight with Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
So it was, and it's nice to see those guys. The way they train, they definitely have a different knack of how they do things.
Cool.
And
I remember you telling me.
Good dudes, and there's some killers, man. Like guys that came out and trained with them guys, and we don't even know their names, and they're just
not tapping. They're to sleep. Yeah,
they're tough guys, and and up and coming guys out in Russia. But
it was Rockhold.
Was
really?
it Rockhold? Yeah.
I do. I remember. I don't know if you're at this. I feel like you might have been at this one too. Remember when it was the one that was in Bellator, and it was. I think it was Islam fighting, and it was when he was losing early. Or was it Islam, or was it It might have been the other Nurmagomedov, one of the two. But then all of them were sitting in the back of the floor section, and they were standing up, and they kept getting told to sit down.
Yeah,
and there was like a gang of them ready to fight, like all the fans.
Yeah,
and you could tell they were all just thugs. None of them spoke English, and they were ready to fight everybody just because they wanted to see. They're like, "That's my cousin. That's my cousin." I thought you were there for that for some reason. I thought you were sitting in front of him.
Yeah. Now years ago, I mean, I cornered Edson Barboza against Khabib.
Oh, really?
And he just
mauled him.
Edson.
Yeah.
Edson fended off the first couple takedowns, and then he just he just grinds. He's just like a just blanket wraps around you. Eventually, just sucks the life out of you, and forget it. Game over. But even in the gym when he was in there, he was he's jumping on like Corey and on all these guys. Man. Yeah,
really.
He's tough, man. I mean, I would like to. I would have liked it, but my knee's been just the last year or so. I've really been having a lot of. I've been trying the stem cells.
Yeah,
it's giving me some comfort with just.
Didn't you go to Mexico or something for it?
No, I've been going up to Integrative up in North Jersey where Frankie goes. A lot of the wrestlers go there.
They do the stem cells there.
Do stem cells there. All good people there. AJ is the doctor's son hooks me up, and we get up there, and Frankie goes up there.
Did you get an MRI?
I got an MRI. I'm just pretty much just bone on bone, no correlate. I've had so many surgeries over the years, and just get it cut out, and now it's just, I just want to have quality life where I can hang with my kids and go to the, whatever. It's amusement park and walk around. Yeah, like if I don't go every 6 months or so, I'm starting to limp again now, and it's just. It's just part of. I'm trying to hold off on the replacement. You know what I mean? Because it's like every 10 years you got to go back and get it fixed. It's like a damn oil change. I'll be going in 3 or 4 times the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And then you're out for what, 6 months every time. It's
In hindsight, it's probably a good thing you didn't fight against Miranda.
I mean,
Yeah. I mean, if I can get to 50, then maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then again at 60, and then
That's not that
I'm hoping
bad.
in like
Once or
5
10
years they
years?
come out with
Yeah.
some
Well, they
Yeah,
probably
like
will.
some magic
yeah,
pill or
reverse
I don't
something.
know
it.
if stem cells is gonna magically make cartilage appear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean they are saying
I am a big fan of stem cells.
yeah,
though,
they
but-
are seeing like a little bit of growth for every time they do the
Really?
scans again. But
Okay.
you
Really?
know,
That's
and
cool.
you know, but I think it's just something you got to constantly
Yeah.
keep doing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's and then you know I'll tweak it or whatever one day, and I feel like it just sets me
Yeah.
back. You know what
So
I mean?
my first jiu-jitsu coach ever was Eric Faust. He's at Berks County Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu up in Reading. He's like got all the tattoos. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've seen him. He's got like a grenade on his
Really?
anyways, he has a list of injuries like bicep tendon, pec is all torn, everything. So he owns his own gym, and he's like, dude, it was breaking my heart to come in every day, watch other people train, and I couldn't train.
Yeah.
He's like, I had to sell the gym. It was
Yeah.
like so depressing just watching everyone train.
Yeah.
Couldn't.
I know it's you know I try to roll once in a while. I just got to watch where I'm going more than like
Yeah.
the gi because I can kind of
Yeah.
dictate and it's a
Slow it
slower
down.
pace. You know
No,
what
I
mean?
love the gi.
You know, but you know, I miss the actual just getting that feel again of like going with say like Corey or one of the guys, and even if it's just some light moving around, it
Yeah.
kind of makes you still feel like
It's
Yeah.
fun
alive.
to roll
You've been-
around. Like,
I've
even
been
for
doing
me,
it
like,
since I'm 6, 7 years old, competing
Yeah.
at highest levels of college, and then you work so hard to get to the UFC, and
Yeah.
eventually you gotta walk away because you know you're
Yeah.
you know you're getting older. But I did win my last one, you know, at the Prudential Center. You know, I was kind of
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good to
it
go
was
out
fun
on
to
a
go
win.
out that way.
Was that
I
Prudential
I tried to do one more and then just got in the camp, and it
Yeah.
was just like it ain't gonna work. You know, that's Prudential Center. Yeah,
I hate watching the legends the way they
Right.
go out.
I know
Frankie is a tough one. I've always been a
that
huge Frankie.
that
fan.
one hurt. Yeah, that was hard. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm you know close
Yeah.
to Frankie's in the gym
Yeah.
for years, and
Yeah.
then you know and we knew each other through wrestling. He reached out to me after he lost to Maynard. We had some mutual connections, and I was training with Ricardo at the time, and that's how I kind of got him in
Yeah.
with Ricardo, you know, and Henzo, and it was just like once he had that, you know, I feel like that team and a little bit more of organization because he was kind of just bouncing around doing his own thing up until that point, and I think once he kind of focused on that's when his career really took off, you know.
Without going into details, but like, is Frankie good financially? Like a guy like
Yeah, and you know he just
I
opened
mean, he
up.
was a UFC champion.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
got
I
the gym,
think
right?
you know.
But he was around, like, I feel like before we started making money.
Yeah, I know. It's that like when I first signed it was like 3 and 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Really?
like
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, it was making more money in sponsors. You know
Right.
what I mean? But that's how it was. But you know, Frankie's did well over the years. You know, Ali was a good
Yeah.
manager.
I
You
know
know, obviously
Ali's-
they're making more money now, but you know, he just opened up his gym. It's about 25-30 minutes from me.
The UFC.
No, it's Iron Army.
Oh.
It's kind of like he's doing his own. He did the UFC thing. up-
Elite was
it-
his other one. Or
So
that was his
Elite
wrestling?
was his wrestling, his buddy's wrestling club where
Got
he
it.
kind of Elite,
wasn't
Short
it.
Thing, or like the two bigger clubs around our area.
Yeah.
And then yeah, but he just opened up his gym maybe about 8 months ago. It's doing well. I mean,
Yeah.
he was open for just a couple months and he hit 200 members pretty quick.
Wow.
You know, so he's doing well with that. And you know, we're constantly picking each other's brain. He knows I've been
Yeah.
running the gym for a long time, and
Yeah.
you know, so me, him, Dante Rivera, you know, he's starting to get a couple guys that want to compete. They come in and spar, so we all kind of work together. You know what I mean? It's not really some of these other gyms around the country. They got these huge teams and all these
Yeah.
different guys to train with. So we try to get together because we each have a decent little crew of guys, and you know, try to cross train and you know, like Luke Fernandez and you know, Eric Nolan and
Yeah.
some of Tante's up and coming
Is
guys. All
Frankie
coming.
gonna fight again?
Frankie, I don't think he's gonna fight again. Maybe a boxing fight
Yeah,
if he gets
yeah,
thrown
yeah.
enough money. But
I just think that, like, well, now I see guys are getting a little bit smarter to it. I just think, well, and I'm not saying, like, Ali's a great manager,
yeah,
but I don't think Frankie should be fighting Chris Gutierrez and these
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
He should be fighting like
like
a Tony Ferguson, a
yeah.
BJ Penn,
or like a Cub again, or
Yeah,
somebody
yeah,
like
yeah.
too old, like
Dude,
Yeah.
people would tune in to watch it.
Yes.
It's two big names, but it's not like you're not having a guy that's at the end of his career fighting a guy that's
Yeah.
at the beginning of his career. And
Yeah.
I get it. That's
Yeah.
the industry. They throw him to the wolves at the end, but I think you do want to take care of like your legends a little
Yeah.
bit. You know what I mean?
I agree with that.
Preserve their legacy.
Yeah.
Frankie's got to probably be at a nice, pretty penny on his next deal if he does fight, though, right?
And I'm sure that plays a part in why these guys, like even Adesanya, like he's lost 4 of his last 5,
Yeah.
but he continues to fight,
He's a
which it's
draw.
like probably because he's getting paid a lot of money.
Yeah.
He's been wanting to retire. Izzy's been
Yeah.
halfway out, but like
I was curious about that. I was asking my coach that too. I was like, so obviously hindsight's 2020, but let's say after his loss to or after he beat Pereira, like came back and beat Pereira. That was the pinnacle of his career.
mhm.
Yeah.
So then he's going to lose 3 in a row after
Yeah.
that. What is that worth?
Yeah.
And I would obviously that would depend on how much money you've already made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say you have $10 million and you're going to lose your next 3 fights. Is $2 million worth it? If you're gonna make $2 million losing your next 3 fights, are you gonna do it?
Yes.
Even if you have 10 mil, even if you've already made 10.
Yeah, because what else are you gonna make $2 million?
Okay, so
doing?
what is it? What
Yeah.
is it worth it?
But I think in Izzy's case, it was probably like the opposite way. I think Izzy probably got offered more and more each fight,
Yeah.
where it wasn't that dramatic of it. Like I think it was a pretty penny where it was like, yeah, dude, of course he's taking his paycheck.
Yeah.
Plus, he's still young, like him and Hulk.
Or then you
know,
got Khabib. The flip side is Khabib. Khabib was like, I don't need money. I'm undefeated.
Yeah.
yeah.
But and
He made like
I
$200
love
million,
Khabib, bro. Khabib is an innovator of the sport. He brought a style to MMA
Yeah.
that every wrestler can only dream of learning from. But at the end of the day, Khabib would have lost if he would have kept
100%.
fighting. Someone was going to beat Khabib.
Yeah.
He was very one-dimensional, and he never fought any very, very good wrestlers.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
styles.
If he would have
100%.
ran into like a very good American wrestler, I think he could have had some
that
problems.
can strike.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that he knew. My take on this is that he knew that Islam could beat him, like from them sparring together, and I think that was what like made him retire because he knew Islam was coming up. Even though he
Yeah.
said like he had to do it to be his coach or whatever, and he did, I think that was really in the back of his head.
Yeah.
He knew that Islam probably would beat him, and he couldn't fight him and have that be exposed. I mean, think about it. If you're training with somebody,
Well,
you
I
gonna
wouldn't
fight
go
them?
as far as thinking they were going to fight each other.
No, but I mean, at some point at that time,
them grappling in the room, the Khabib just
he mauls him.
Yeah.
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Really?
yeah, and
Really?
and Coach Javi, like they'll even tell you, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. You guys heard this?
Yeah.
Nick Catone says that Khabib versus Islam heads up in the grappling room. Who wins?
Khabib.
Khabib
Yeah.
works and not
Yeah.
just by a little bit, decisively
Yeah.
wins, right?
Khabib's man, he's another animal.
Wow.
You know, and those guys look up to him like
Yeah.
a whole nother
Really?
with the grappling. You know what I mean? Even though they're all great grapplers, but Khabib's definitely still
Really?
another-
That-
and
that's
to this
cool.
day he's walking around over 200 pounds and
Yeah.
he's just
Yeah.
Do they
Just
do
toying with the
anything
guys.
That's cool.
differently as far as conditioning goes? Or is that
No, I mean they just the way they just present themselves and the way they train, it's like they're doing like 3 practices in one. It's like
Really?
yeah, it's just
yeah, but what do you mean?
well, they'll start out with a warm up, and their warm up is like very strenuous, and it's like a 20-minute,
Uh-huh.
really high intense warm up.
What are they doing in those warm ups?
Just-
Gymnastics?
Yeah, like army crawls and like knee walks and like all kinds of different,
Yeah.
things that they do. But it's not like a 5-minute warm up. They're like 20,
Yeah.
25 minutes warm
Yeah.
up. Then
And I'm sure that I
Yeah.
wouldn't say Khabib had longevity, but if for those or how hard those guys are training, that's necessary. That
Yeah.
helps.
yeah, and then it's then they'll get into the drilling aspect, but it's a fast paced drilling.
Yeah.
Khabib would show a couple things, and then they would just kind of get into it, and then they would just do live. They'll do live on the mat, then they'll go live on the wall for a while, and then they'll do a little bit of some touch sparring, and then they'll go and beat the bags for 20 minutes to a 30-minute workout,
Wow.
burning out at the end of practice on the bags.
Wow.
With Khabib calling out, different things, and they're just wailing away, and it's like, they would go good over 2 hours hard every day. You know what I mean? They sparred, Tuesdays and Saturdays, pretty much
A normal
2 days.
schedule.
normal schedule. And they did their own little like strength and conditioning thing, just with basic stuff that I have in my gym. No like, don't need sled pushes and all that stuff. There was literally just a couple kettlebells, a couple bars from the weights. Body weight stuff. They would run. They were running up and down where they were staying a lot.
Like
and
before
then
practice, after practice.
yeah, and then that was another thing. They'd be done, and those guys, half of them would go up on a treadmill. You know what I mean? And then they're running on there for another half hour. You know what I mean? They were definitely interesting to see how they train. Yeah, twice a day. Usually in the morning, they come back at night.
Yeah.
But it was definitely, pick up a couple things here and there. A lot of them too. Like they'll finish with they were just, after the whole workout's all done, they'll go in a plank position on their palms for like 5 minutes.
Wow. Plank.
Like just palms.
Yeah,
and won't move. After they're all done with all that, and it's like, I'll do it for 2 or 3 minutes with my guys. And they're like shaking and they're like trying to, and it just builds up all that little stuff. They just do those little extra things. You know what I mean? It's just, it was interesting to see how they train and stuff. But, it was definitely nice having them guys around and seeing
That's awesome.
Seeing their little techniques and stuff that they do.
I know, like, I've heard like Askren talk about and Chael talk about how like everything they're doing is just American wrestling.
Yeah.
But I mean, the aspect of like their takedowns on the cage are the best, and that's not American wrestling. They're doing, so somebody was teaching them this stuff that nobody else is teaching in the UFC. The Dagestani obviously have a different style.
Yeah.
They're bringing something different. I'm curious where this all that it all came from.
I'm not sure, but I mean, just their grip strength. I think from them, the way they train, they condition their bodies to be able to. It's like when you hold like a cradle in wrestling, and then your forearms are burning. You know what I mean? It's like they condition themselves to be able to do that for so long. Whereas I feel like a lot of these guys around here, it's like I yell at the guys half the time when they're sparring, because I'll watch all these guys sparring on the mat and not one guy will shoot. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then all of a sudden, a lot of them are wrestlers, and then they get in the fight and they shoot 4 times in the first round. They're like, Coach, I'm tired. I'm like, yeah, because you don't shoot 4 times in camp, and now you want to shoot 4 times in the first round. But Khabib and those guys, they train. It's like, even like Corey, like he trains like he's going to compete. Like he'll take you down and hold you down and beat you up, but you condition yourself like that. It's like you can't fight a totally different way than you are in the gym. You know what I mean? But I think that whole thing, and then just the way they lock, a lot of them too, what they do is they grab the inside of their gloves, and they're very good at going from inside their gloves back to the palms. And they go here to let, I think, their forearms and stuff breathe a little bit, and then they'll go back to that lock. And they're very, very good at holding that lock and that grip strength with their hands as they're training, especially on the wall. And I just see, and guys are always like, Coach, I can't get up, and I can't break the lock. It's just, they're just, I think, just so conditioned the way they do it at such a young age, or whatever they're doing, over the years. And, that just carries over into the MMA.
It's wild.
Where you think American wrestling, we're not locking hands in wrestling, you know what I mean? So I think that's a little bit different. The only time you're locking hands is when you got like a cradle or something, you know what I mean? But think about, they're constantly grinding and locking and holding, and I think a lot of that, has to do with, more of their grip
Talking about
strength,
grinding, bro. The other day, my neighbor, they had a stump that they had to grind down, bro. And you know who did it?
What did they do?
Yeah, so there was a stump. It was like creating these issues, like the roots came.
Stumps are the worst,
horrible.
Especially when they have a lot of roots.
Yeah, so you know what I had them do?
What did you have them do?
I had them call Dr. Enright over at Enright's Tree Service.
Dude, they are the best. I have heard that they are the best.
They really are the best. And you know what they did to this tree? Minced meat, bro. Absolute minced meat they turned this tree into. Put it right through the grinder, and it was gone like it was never there.
They had a wood chipper?
Yes, they did. They had a wood chipper, and they got fresh pellets for mulch right after the fact. So they got 2 for 1 from Enright's. How about that?
I don't know what more you guys need to hear.
Enright's Tree Service across the bottom of the screen. Hit them up. South Jersey, North Jersey, Delaware.
All right, here's my final question for you, Nick. What's the best piece of advice you ever got?
Best piece of advice. I don't know. I would say maybe pretty much I think when you get into management and stuff, you know what I mean, with some of these guys, um, you know, you got to kind of just watch, you know, where you. When I first started my career, um, I felt like not like I was taken advantage of. I just felt like I didn't know a lot, you know. And I'm always kind of like on my younger guys about, you know, being their own LLC, being their own person. You're working for yourself. You know what I mean? I tell these guys too to, you know, they should be, you know, getting their own business LLC credit card and start being smart about yourself. Build up your platform. I feel like that was something like nowadays. I feel like with social media and stuff, it's a lot easier for you guys, you know. But when I was in the UFC, it was like we went out to these things out in Vegas, the summits. They would teach you how to use, you know, Twitter, and they wanted you
Oh,
like
yeah?
they were like literally saying if you can Twitter in the corner of your round, we want you tweeting. You know what I mean? Like, and you know that was something that I felt like I may have not have succeeded in, you know, MMA to the levels I want, but I was able to use my platform and some of those things to grow a business while I was doing it. And I have that to fall back on, you know what I mean? And the fighting wasn't going to be forever. And I opened up the gym while I was training and still fighting to have some income in between. You know, again, when I first started, the money wasn't great. So, and it just, the gym started really taking off and kind of reverse roles. You know, and probably at one point was when that, you know, one of my coaches said, you know, to kind of, you know, build yourself up, start, you know, have that, you know, profile, and that brand of your own. And I feel like I used that well to kind of get to where I'm at today. I started with a 3,000 square foot gym 15 years ago. A year later, knocked down the wall, went to 5,000. 3 years after that, moved across the street in the plaza, went to 8,000, and then eventually was able to purchase the property I'm on now, and own it and be able to rent space out. So, you know, years ago, I think that was, you know, the one coach that said that to me. I think that kind of hit on me, and I was able to kind of do a lot of those things. Not be done with my career, and now what do I have? You know what I mean? So, you know, I was fortunate to be able to be around a lot of guys, a lot of big name guys over the years. Been through the gym, and you know, I feel like that was one of the things. Maybe, you know, as far as advice, was more of my branding myself and setting myself up for after fighting, and
Yeah.
and that's where and in a way, can't compete anymore, but I'm cage side cornering these
Yeah.
guys, and I still
building a
I'm
brand.
still in the game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and look, Corey, Bellator champion,
Yeah.
succeeded. You got Frankie.
Yeah.
You worked with Eddie too,
Eddie was in the gym,
and Edson. Like,
Edson.
you've cornered a lot of very high level, extremely successful professional fighters. And your gym, tell us about your gym as far as like for the everyday folk as well. You guys offer regular classes too.
Yeah, so it's primarily, you know, for your average, you know,
Yeah.
your average Joe. We
That's
got
what pays the bills.
yeah, we got big kids program. You know, your Muay Thai, your Jiu-Jitsu, your boxing. I have a full gym
What
in there.
ages?
So we start at 4, and I mean, I have members up in their 60s. You know what I
Wow.
mean? So,
And where are you guys located?
we're in Brick, New Jersey,
Brick,
Yep.
New Jersey.
and you know, about 5 minutes from the beach.
Awesome.
Hour from AC,
I like the beach.
hour
Right?
from New York.
Yeah,
We're good. We're a
definitely
good
go
spot.
check them out.
Beach.
It's a great facility.
Stop in. We get a lot
Awesome.
of people for the summer.
You know
they
what's
pop
even
in,
better
you
than
know?
the beach though is training before you go to
Go
the
to the
beach.
beach, yeah.
So if you guys are in Brick, New Jersey,
There you go. All right, guys. Great show. Anything else?
that's all I
No,
got.
Nick, appreciate you, brother.
Appreciate you guys
All right,
having
guys.
me on.
Thanks,
It's good.
thanks for coming on.
Tap
man.
out our
Appreciate
cash out.
it.
I'll see you
Yeah.
guys
Yep.
next week. And we'll have a card not to talk about. Let's get it.